invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Anthea Rolovo, and I've practiced that Anthea very many times, so please forgive me for that. She's a member of the Christ of the Rock Church. So, Anthea, the podium is yours. Please rise.
Let us pray. Father, we just come before you this evening, and firstly, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege of allowing us to see this day. We don't ever want to take that for granted, and we just want to bless you for that. We pray, Lord God, that you would reside in this meeting, that we pray for wisdom, for knowledge, for understanding, for discernment, for insight, Lord, that whoever has petitions and things that need to be heard, I pray, Lord God, that for unity in spirit, and I pray, Lord Jesus, that you would reside here today. I pray, Lord God, for everyone that is present, that you be with their families. And if anyone is going through anything at this time, Lord, I pray for peace that only you can give. So I pray, Lord Jesus, that they would give it to you and know that you have everything under control. I pray, Lord, once again, that you would take precedence in this meeting and bless each and every one that is here. We ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. All right. Madam City Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Spears?
Here.
Perkins?
Here.
Stewart?
Here.
Steinmeier?
Here.
Hobart?
Here.
Mayor Rowland?
Here. The next thing we have is citizens' request, if I'm correct. And, okay. Okay, thank you. We have Randy Williamson request to speak to the council regarding the Jackson Drive Industrial Park. Randy, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak tonight to share my concerns for the ground settlement that has occurred and continues to occur in my neighborhood, causing many Independence residents to individually spend thousands of dollars on foundation repair and possibly many more thousands of dollars in years to come. My name is Randy Williamson. My wife and family and I live at 2700 South Mohican Avenue, which is in the 3rd District in Independence for over 36 years. My house is less than 50 yards from where the proposed Jackson Drive Industrial Park is planned to be developed, and a primary plat plan is to be reviewed and possibly approved in this meeting tonight. The proposed Jackson Drive Industrial Park contains a very large private 6+ acre stormwater detention basin. I sent pictures to the city clerk that I believe sent to each one of you. The plan is to transfer the maintenance and the upkeep for the existing owner of the property, which is Hilburn Trucking Company, to the new owner of the proposed industrial park. As part of the approval of the proposed plat, the Independence Planning Commission is requiring that the detention basin be verified to be in working order and that there are no environmental issues with it. Because of my concern for the ground settling in the neighborhoods since and shortly after the detention basin was built, and I believe and contend that the building of the detention basin is the direct cause of the ground settlement in the neighborhoods to the west of the basin, I am requesting that the City Council vote to postpone the vote on approving the preliminary plat plan tonight. Based upon the information from multiple sunshine requests that I have requested from the City of Independence, Jackson County, and state agencies, I have ample facts and proof that the City of Independence in 2008 through 2010 did not require and/or perform the necessary and required due diligence to ensure that the detention basin builder knew and/or followed all of the governmental codes, regulations, laws, required permits, forms, studies, etc. I contend the City of Independence is negligent in their duties to protect me and my neighbors from the negative impact of building the detention basin. I believe that building the detention basin caused the groundwater and the water table level to move and was the direct cause of the ground settlement to the west, causing building foundation issues, Mohican Avenue to actually sink, hundreds and thousands of dollars to be spent repairing foundations in the neighborhoods, and property values of the impacted homes to be reduced. I also have concern for ground settlement to occur, to continue to happen, which is just going to make the problem much worse. Based upon my concern, last week I requested from my councilman, Mike Steinmeier, via an email, which you should have a copy of, to ask the city to do the following. Hire a licensed geotechnical engineer to perform a geotechnical study of the impacted area to determine what caused or is causing the ground settlement. Have the independent stormwater and street departments assess and fix the Mohican Avenue settlement issues. Perform a CCTV inspections of the stormwater and sewer pipes. Assess and fix the stormwater and sewer line issues on Mohican Avenue, which happens to be a 4-block long street with cul-de-sacs on each side. And I also am asking once again that you postpone the vote to approve the preliminary plat of Jackson Avenue Industrial Park until the above requests are met, giving city officials, including the city council, all the information needed to be able to vote in a responsible way, taking into account the impact on the neighbors to the west. As you are aware, we recently had a historic election in Independence, where several new candidates were given by God the privilege and responsibility to serve the residents of the city of Independence.
You have 1 minute.
During the campaign, I heard several promises and slogans from the newly elected candidates. Some of them were,
Sir, if I can, please, and you can stop his time so I don't take his time, if I can kind of put some guardrails in this conversation. The city council meeting is a meeting about policies. Your discussion with regards to rainwater and things like that, perfectly appropriate, welcomed, and I'm glad you're reaching out to us to work on that. I think your concerns need to be investigated and need to be addressed. Here is my concern about what I'm hearing you about to say.
Okay.
This dais is given to all of these colleagues. Would you agree? Is given to these colleagues here for policies, not politics or personalities. And I did not state that earlier. And, the campaigns are past. And we need to, when we talk here, we need to talk about stormwater drainage. We need to talk about those kinds of things. And I want to apologize to you personally. I did not set those parameters prior to you talking, and I wanted to make sure that I do that. And so I want to apologize to you, and I did not stop your time. And so you still have 50 seconds left. But I just want to apologize to you that we need to set a standard in this city that we talk in this body about policies. And those policies are our decisions we make. We cannot talk about politics and personalities from this dais because that is not what this body was elected to do or what this body is brought to do. So I want to personally apologize to you. I should have brought that up first. And I have not talked to my colleagues about that. We will certainly on June 21st, I want all of you to be there so we can talk about policies like this. But I just want to apologize to you. I want to be very respectful to you. We welcome you to be here, and I'm glad that you're bringing this to our attention, and we want to work on this.
Okay.
But you understand when we start talking about politics,
I understand.
we might be out of bounds, and I just want to put some guardrails up. So I personally want to apologize to you, and thank you for that. And I hate doing this. I hate hitting the gavel, but it's not about us. It's about all of us as a community. So if you would, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I am asking I'm asking you all to take the opportunity to prove some of the things that was said during the campaign by protecting our property from damage because of a cloud of corruption hanging over the city, to become the change maker and show us all of the new set of ethic standards is in the place of City Hall. Let's not keep it status quo. Let's make it right for the citizens that have had a negative impact on their property because of the previous city officials turning their eyes and ears in another direction to follow the ideal of help the city grow and generate tax dollars at all costs, at the expense of common long-time tax-paying residents who were trusting them to do the right thing. It is your choice right now. Do you want to do as it says right up there and says, make it a great American story by keeping the status quo? Or do you want to turn it into a real great American story by leading with a new code of ethics and remove the cloud of corruptions hanging over this city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Who else do we have? Help me with Mr. Edward Nesbitt. And I guess you're going to talk about the CID project. Is that correct? Yes. And the budget. And if you could be cognizant of the policies of refraining from politics or personalities, and please just talk about policies, I'd be grateful.
Okay, I'm Edward Nesbitt, go by Butch. Basically, I'm on the Planning Commission. You got appointed there. You CIP projects. I started to bring up projects about concerns about them, and they just rubber stamped them through. I don't like that idea that we just rubber stamp CIP projects. I mean, I don't know if Mike has went through each one of them personally, or Zach's gone through each one of them personally, see what's happening. I have just a couple of them here, the Lynn Court project. Basically, Lynn Court, you guys want to straighten the road out. To my knowledge, it is not city property, but we want to spend $800,000. And our budget, we don't have enough money as our budget right now, but this year we want to spend $800,000. I don't think that's something we need to do. This street's been this way for over 30 or 40 years. If the owner of the property wants to straighten it out, let him do it. But I don't think the city needs to put money into that project. That's just one of them. My other one here is the square streetscapes. I mean, I don't understand why we're going to put, sorry, I got to put my glasses on here, 1.8 million up on the square. I mean, we put trees in before there, we've taken them out. We put curbs in up here before, we've taken them out. We put sidewalks, taken them out. I think we should take that money and probably use it for our, sorry about that, I just went blank. Other projects like we got the, Big and Wagner, the Frontales Museum, and also that are falling apart, but we need to use that money elsewhere in our city, but not on these projects. I mean, I don't know who came up with the idea of the square. I know we were going to get some grant money. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're going to get grant money, but I think that should be better used elsewhere besides up on the square. So that's just a couple of things I have to say about that. So that's where I'm at. So
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And Ali Karazak. Did I pronounce that correctly? Oh, no. I want to be accurate. Help me out.
Carol Zach.
Carol Zach.
Yeah.
So it's easy, actually. I was making it difficult.
Worst I've ever heard was Korolkachek, so.
Thank you, Ali. And what are you here to talk about today?
So my name is Ali Karolzak. I am here on behalf of Redwood Living. We are the developer of the project that's coming on East R.D. Mize Road and Jackson Drive. I signed up to speak just in case anybody did show up in opposition. So I'm here just representing our company, and if you all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Nope.
Is this a public hearing?
There'll be a public hearing later. And is this item on it? Huh? Yeah. The public hearing that we're having later is just for new information only, so you can obviously bring new information to the issue, but at that point. So, Ali, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Okay. And that brings us to proclamations, and actually both people, I believe, are not here tonight, Ali or Lexus, is that correct? Ali, are you here? Wonderful. I am glad that you're here, and I'll go ahead and take Ali's proclamation.
I'll have to read it first, and then I'll hand it over to
Okay, fire away. The city clerk is going to read it, and then we'll take a picture from up front, okay?
Whereas being kind can go a long way, many times it's not recognized, and whereas the Kindest Kansas Citian Awards are celebrating kindness for the 32nd year, and whereas part of the event honors 20 kindest Kansas Citians nominated by students ranging from kindergarten to seniors in high school, and whereas Allie Murphy, a sophomore at Fort Osage High School, nominated Katie Becker as her kindest Kansas Citian, and whereas Allie says, "This woman has impacted me and my peers around me more times than I can count. Katie Becker, counselor, mother, role model. Katie is one of the nicest people I've ever met. And whereas the City of Independence wants to recognize Allie Murphy for her thoughtful and kind words. Whereas the City of Independence celebrates these inspiring examples of kindness. Now therefore, Rory R. Rowland, Mayor of the City of Independence, proclaims Allie Murphy Day.
They don't look old enough to be grandparents. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Just saying. 75. Not in a million years. Yep.
Well, do you want one with just your grandparents? Because they're the important people. Go ahead, get one with just with the important folks. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Sally. We'll wait. She'll be here next week or in 2 weeks. All right. And that brings us to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or items to be pulled out for separate consideration?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can you please remove Resolution 22757?
And is that resolution, is it 22-755?
757.
757. So it's the very, very last one?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if you could pull 22-755, please.
Okay. I was planning to do that. You guys got me out of order. So very, very good. So what I'm hearing from both you gentlemen is pull out 22-757 and then also pull out 22-755. Is that correct? Okay. Is there any further discussion or items to be pulled for consideration? Okay. We'll take a roll call right now for all of the other items, and that includes both the consent agenda recommendations from the city manager and the resolutions that were not pulled out, excluding 22-757 and 22-755, but we'll approve everything else with this roll call vote. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Okay. City Council member, you made a motion on 22-757. Would you like to talk about that one, or?
Sure. I just had a question. Mr. City Manager, can you give us a brief overview of what policies you're actually wanting to change? And at this point, who it will affect?
Sure. Good question, Councilmember and Mayor and members of the council. This policy would be applied to any of our employees who are currently eligible to earn overtime. Current practice allows employees to utilize their accrued leave, so that'd be sick leave or vacation leave or their personal business leave, to count towards their 40 hours each week before they would begin earning overtime. The proposal is to bring that more in line with the federal law, which is that one must work 40 hours in each week prior to being eligible to earn overtime. This is one of the key recommendations in the submitted budget. We estimate it could have anywhere between $300,000 to $400,000 of savings to the city, and believe that will help balance that $5.3 million shortfall we spoke of without requiring any reduction in staffing or elimination of any services. This is just a recalculation of how overtime policies are applied in the city. You did ask who it affects, council member, and I do want to note again, as I mentioned, all of the employees who are eligible for overtime, with the caveat that this is not applicable to the fire department because their overtime rules and regulations are separate and apart from the other members of the city workforce who are eligible for overtime. Different policies and procedures apply to that department's operations.
What about the other labor unions?
Yes.
Because it states in there you would have to reach out to them to renegotiate, is that correct?
That's correct, but as the budget is being contemplated 2 weeks from tonight, we wanted to go ahead and get down the road on this so that if the council was not supportive of this, that would give us a 2-week head start to go remove $400,000 of expenditures from the city's general fund.
Has there been any, and maybe it's not possible, has there been any initial conversations with any of the leaders of the unions to see if they would be open to renegotiating this?
We put this on an agenda 60 to 75 days ago and had some conversation then. We've not reinitiated those conversations as of yet, but I have referenced this in 3 public meetings as well as the employee budget presentation that I made.
So how would this affect, let's say Independence Power and Light? Let's say we had somebody on vacation for 40 hours that week, and then, they got called in on a weekend because of a major outage or something. Isn't that gonna, and then, can they just refuse to come in? They're on vacation and they're not gonna get paid overtime.
They would be subject to discipline for failing to report for duty under these policies.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, proceed.
will this have any type of effect with the PD, with any of some of their state grants that they receive and get in? The highway safety grant, a lot of that just pays for the overtime and doesn't pay for our 40 hours straight, it pays for a lot of the overtime. You see any hiccups in that?
I don't as we sit here tonight, but that's certainly something, a lot of those are, as you said, overtime assignments outside of the regular working duty. So, saturation patrols, typically occur after hours on a weekend. That's something we would absolutely, as we're applying this, making sure we don't run into any of those unintended consequences.
After this becomes a fact, let's stay on top with our public safety and our PD to make sure that those saturations of those grants are being filled with the proper amount of people that we need. And if adjustments need to be made, down the road, we can do that.
Yeah, I certainly agree, and point well taken.
Anyone else? Other discussions on 22-757?
Mr. Mayor.
Like the airplane. Go ahead, Mr. Councilman.
Mr. Walker, you doing okay this evening?
Yep,
You look tired. You okay?
never better.
Okay, good. So, I just, a question on the firefighters, you said.
Yes, sir.
They're not affected by this at all, or they?
There's different language that applies to their overtime policies regarding overtime. So no, this is not applicable to them.
Okay, and I'm going to ask this, and it may not be germane to the discussion, but we're going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
I can always get corrected. We requested that we start looking at the loss of COVID time, the vacation, sick days that they were required to do. These have an effect on the overtime standards as well. And we were supposed to look into that and get a report back. And I wanted to know if we've done so, where we're at with that. I feel like we have an obligation to just get an update for that time that they've lost. I mean, it's complicated, I get it, but we've had several months now to look at it, and I just wanted to get an update on that, especially since we're talking about overtime usage.
Yeah, we did provide that report. I don't have that at the ready tonight, but the cost implications of that ran into the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. So it was not our recommendation to pursue restoration of any of those sick leave hours that were used.
And so those, those union leaders, they've seen that report, they've had the discussion with you, they have an understanding of the same?
Well, I don't want to speak for them. I don't know if they have an understanding, but I believe they know where our recommendation stood on
Okay.
that. Yes.
Okay, I appreciate that update.
Yes, certainly.
Okay, that's all I had.
Sure.
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing.
Sir, can I
Proceed.
very quickly?
Yes.
This fire issue is important enough that I would like the deputy city manager to clarify. The laws around this are important, so I want the council to fully understand this before
Okay.
proceeding.
So I just want to clarify something. In that report, the staff report, we did not include fire in that analysis of overtime, the examples there. But this resolution does call for us to go and discuss this with IAFF and all the labor groups. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
We'll have a conversation with all 7 of our bargaining units about this.
Very good. Thank you.
And FOP as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yep. Any other comments from the other council members? If not, do I have a motion and a second for 22-757?
I'll make a motion for
Okay,
approval.
and a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second for 22-757. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Thank you. The next item was 22-755. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know Mr. Williamson came and made his appeal. He's concerned about some of the issues that we have in the area. I have been in contact with him on several occasions. I asked him to forward his request to me. I forwarded it to Mr. Walker. There's some things that the city staff's going to be working on. Is that correct, Mr. Walker?
The plan tonight is a preliminary plat.
Yeah.
It requires several boxes to be checked moving forward. One of those which is an engineering plan to be completed to understand and make certain that the infrastructure can handle in this case, the stormwater runoff, the other natural spring water, whatever water may be out there. And if not, what kind of improvements may need to be made by the landowner or developer to accommodate the proposed development.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
one of the bigger concerns was, is it code compliant? I mean, this was done a number of years ago, so, where the city stands on it, are we certain, can we assure the residents of the 3rd District that if we move forward, even with the preliminary, that this actually falls in line with the current codes and conditions of our city? And
Yes,
if
sir.
not,
I'm sorry.
is it unreasonable? No, you're fine. Is it unreasonable to move to postpone until we get all these ducks lined up? Because we do have 9 issues concerning this matter.
Certainly, yeah. No, we can provide those assurances and know that as we move through this development process, there are certain boxes that have to be checked, hurdles that must be cleared prior to final approval being even considered by this body.
And that's why I'm in agreement. I think we should maybe postpone it, just give the city staff the time to do this right. We need to make sure that we're not going to have any issues with the residents and incurring additional costs with what actions we're taking, as well as avoiding any potential legal issues down the road. I just think that to get it right in this, especially in the valley where we've seemed to rush through some things, I would like to see us have an opportunity to allow the city staff to bring some assurances to the residents in the area. So I'm going to ask that we move to postpone the approval of this on the preliminary plat and give the city staff time to bring us some more information to get this, to give all of us more information to know how we're moving forward. So, Mr. Mayor, when discussion's over, obviously I'd like to move for postponement of this.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Well, we're not done with the discussion yet, gentlemen, but we have to get to that point. Any other else discussion,
Mr. Mayor,
please?
I see that we've got Mr. Lauber here with us tonight, filling in as city attorney. Could you simply or briefly describe what a preliminary plat is?
So the preliminary plat phase is an early phase in development, excuse me, where the city looks at the regulations and they look at the land with respect to various pieces of infrastructure and how the property would be laid out based on the proposed development. Typically, when a developer comes forward, they're not going to spend the money on the engineering reports. They're not going to spend the money on the kind of the chase costs, if you will, the pursuit costs of a development until they have some idea that the project would move forward. That being in mind, I think, you know, Councilman Steinmeier's comments are well taken, but I think it's going to be difficult for the city staff to get the information that they need, to get you the information you need without proceeding through those next requirements for essentially like the engineering study, the water, the hydrology studies, those types of things. The city has adopted the Kansas City American Public Works Association regulations with respect to stormwater, and specifically 5600, which deals with retention and detention ponds. That's something that communities all over the metro area have done, because these issues don't even keep themselves within the city's boundaries. They will flow to, you know, other communities in the area, and so we kind of take this on a metro-wide approach. So, you know, the city staff has to follow the ordinances that this body has adopted, and we cannot bring forward to you something that doesn't meet those requirements. And that's essentially what these 9 considerations you have in front of you are for the preliminary plat, to ensure that those things are double checked as we go through the process.
Can I ask a question? Or, I'm sorry.
Proceed. Proceed.
Well, so my understanding, and talking with constituents, there have been costs already occurred on their side because of the water that has that retention area apparently was not constructed correctly, and they've incurred costs. They haven't, only thing they've done is raise the issue with the city. So this is not new. So, and then when they bring it to planning and zoning, they were told to bring it to us. And it was, in reading this, a motion was recommended approval on the preliminary plat with conditions listed below. But they were not willing to listen to the concerns of my constituents who have incurred tens of thousands of dollars of repair from water damage into the foundations of that area. So that's why I'm pressing to proceed with some caution here. They've been good sports. They haven't come to the city, and they haven't made any issues in terms of litigation, and I think they might have grounds to do so, but I just want to make sure we're doing this right. So this has been brought to me, and I've brought it to the city manager, and I would like to make sure that we're doing it the correct way. So I'm hesitant to go forward, but if you're saying the only way we can get this done is if we do a preliminary plat approval, I guess we're kind of in a corner. I don't know that I necessarily agree with you, but is that what I'm hearing you say to me?
What I am saying is that in order to gather the information that's necessary to address the concerns that were raised at 5 regarding covenants and restrictions to own and maintain the detention basin, at 6 for the to continue to utilize the detention basin, that its condition needs to be confirmed and that is within working order and meet stormwater design requirements. That will take studies that are essentially set in motion by the approval of a preliminary plat to go through the process. Typically, if something fails at the preliminary plat process, it will just end, which sometimes that's what people who are opposed to an application want to see. But in order for this to proceed and to get the information that you're looking for and to get the assurances that are necessary, that these residents are requiring, those next steps to get those engineering reports and so forth.
Well,
We
you
need
have
to
to
go forward.
understand, they brought this to the attention of the city some time ago, years ago, before Mr. Walker, and it didn't go anywhere. So there's going to be some hesitancy on their part that what we're doing is kind of the cart before the horse. So the season, it's not like tonight's a new awareness. This has been brought to the city prior to. So if this is our only way to get these things done, like I said, I don't necessarily like the direction we're having to go here, but I understand it too.
Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I'm going to call a 90-second recess. I'll be right back. Please forgive me for that. Councilmember, I think you wanted to make a comment.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure I understand the process for the whole project. So if we approve the preliminary plat tonight, then that will allow the studies to occur, the information to be gathered, and then it will come back to this body with that information. And then at that point, we can make a more educated decision. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, a development is not completed until, and a plat is not completed until final plat approval. And then after final plat approval, only then would actual construction occur. And then, to the extent that there would be any infrastructure that the city would be dedicated to the city for the city's future maintenance and so forth, that only occurs after that point. So again, in the development process, we're at the very earliest stages, and it's kind of essentially bringing forward a proposal. Planning and Zoning Commission did their statutory and their ordinance and charter-based duty to review that on your behalf. Their look at this was to make a recommendation that you would approve it, but that city staff needs to go through these 9 issues because those were the concerns of the Planning and Zoning Commission and their recommendation to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If I could, City Councilor, ask this question. I want to put it in simple terms so everybody can understand what we're talking about here. If I'm going to use a very, very simple analogy that many of us have done, we've bought a house, we've gone to a buyer, we've made an offer, they've accepted that offer, but in order to move in and take a presidency, you actually have to then have an inspection, maybe have an inspection for radon. You might have other things you have to consider. Then you have to get financing, you have to get approved for that financing, and then there's typically a time to move in and get the thing done. So what we're talking about today is basically just the first step of the process, making an offer to buy the house. If I can use an analogy that would be simple and to understand for everybody here, to understand what the process is.
It's a pretty good analogy, Mayor.
Thank you, my friend, I appreciate it. Any other discussion on this issue? Any other discussion from the council members? No further discussion. We're going to talk about 22-755. Is that correct, Madam City Clerk? Is we're going to approve that? We take a roll call.
Excuse me, we need a motion.
Okay. So we have a motion for approving 22-755.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, City Clerk. And we've got a motion and a second. With that,
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
I did ask at the end of the discussion that we have I moved to postpone. Discussion's over. I still have a motion on the floor.
Okay. There is a motion on the floor to postpone. Please forgive me for that, Mr. City Council Member. I apologize. I did not intend anything by that. We have a motion on the floor. I need a second.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
If I could please, can we have some definite, so can we is this a motion to postpone indefinitely? Is this a motion to postpone to a date certain?
Until we get a direct answer from an email that was sent earlier inquiring about it was a geological survey, and he was going to get back to us respond back to me once he addressed the city staff of what was involved to do that.
Okay. If I may, Mr. City Manager, ask you on the process here. We're talking about the process steps. Can we do the geological survey without our actions this evening? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's not typical for the city to go do that kind of work on private property unless there's some kind of
An agreement
public
or
improvement or some
platting
sort
or
of
something like
project
that.
being contemplated.
So we need to make an offer on the house, using my analogy earlier.
That would fit. That would be
At least
suitable.
step one.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, can we
Yes.
get a withdrawal for the motion to approve 22-755, and then we can do the motion to postpone?
Thank you.
Motion to withdraw.
Thank you.
Okay,
In a second. Do we need a second to withdraw it?
that's fine.
Okay.
So let's go ahead with the motion to postpone, and would you put a date or parameter on that too, please?
I'll leave that up to Mr. City Manager. What time frame do we need? Do we need 2 weeks? Can we come back and revisit this once you have an answer from city staff?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to something that would be helpful, but I'm struggling, council member, because like I said, really the next step is to grant that approval of this stage, so then we would start doing that additional detail and study and all of that. So I know you mentioned the cart and the horse, but without this step, we really wouldn't initiate any of those other research items.
Okay, so can we amend it as one of the recommendations, like be number 10?
Let me defer to the city councilor on that. Sorry to put you on the spot, sir.
So I guess I have a question, because we already have number 6 that says that the detention basin on tract A can be utilized, but its condition needs to be confirmed that it is in working order and meets the stormwater requirements.
And what's that condition? And what's that requirement? And who's going to bring that forward and make that recommendation to us?
So the requirements themselves lay out formula, they lay out regulations, they requirements for the amount of water flow. That is all information that comes in a report from an engineer as they go through the development process.
Can we be specific? Are you saying we can't?
I'm not prepared to read to you from your city code with respect to the details of what's required under KCA PWA 5600.
Okay.
It's a very detailed, but that's the process that your city staff will go through before this can come forward as an item for final approval.
Right, but the request was made before tonight for a specific type of survey. So are we saying whatever they bring back, if it doesn't meet that requirement, that we've
Councilmember, typically development pays its own way as we go through. It's not the city's responsibility to pay for certain engineering reports or
Right.
platting or legal description surveys and so forth, because development pays its own way.
Sure.
And in this situation, it's kind of turning the tables and requiring the city to do something that's typically the developer's responsibility.
Okay, so if we use the real estate analogy, then we do a survey or we do an inspection, and in this particular case, as part of our negotiation, because we're still negotiating it, can we ask them to provide that for us?
That is what's
Since
required.
that's
I would
been an
defer
issue.
to city staff with planning staff as far as that. But in most communities, again, I'm not familiar specifically with your requirements as I sit here right this second. But what I will tell you is those requirements are exactly what city staff looks at when they're being asked to do this by a planning commission.
Right. But if you're saying that normally it goes to the person selling if there's been issues of water, and apparently there has been, because it wasn't done in accordance to whatever, and I don't know where the failure was, but there's been water issues in the past. So who is going to take responsibilities for that?
So, Councilmember, I guess what I would be concerned about is the fact that we are reviewing a development application for today to go forward. We're not reviewing an application necessarily to look backwards into time. Okay?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to call the question.
Thank you. There is a motion to call the question. Madam City Clerk, question that does not need a second. Am I correct?
It does need a second.
It does need a second. We have a second. We have a motion to call the question before us, which is actually the question of, should we postpone? With the question being called, we will proceed to the roll call vote. And so, Madam City Clerk, can you call the roll call for postponing the issue at hand? And I believe that is item 22-755, to postpone that, if I'm correct.
We'll do a roll call on calling the question.
Right. Well, we're going to call the question, correct?
But,
Right, we have to call the question, and then we'll vote on the matter.
right, there wasn't a full motion for the motion to postpone. This would kick it back to approving bill number 22-755.
Right, but we have to take the motion from the council member who said postpone it. If we vote in favor of postponing it, then it would postpone it and it wouldn't go forward.
There was no second. I seconded it.
He did get a second. Yeah. Is that your question? Did you got a second?
No, it got a second earlier when it
Okay.
wasn't a motion on the floor.
Okay.
So
So we need to-
it's never gotten a second.
I'll give it a second.
Okay, we'll just go that route.
If I'm correct, I heard Councilmember Stewart do a second earlier. Was that correct, Councilmember Perkins, since you're closer?
He did, but the motion wasn't on the floor for discussion,
Okay.
but it is now.
Okay. I'm going to actually make a ruling from the chair. We'll proceed with the vote, and we'll go from there. And so we'll take a roll call vote to reconsider the item and postpone it as I hear it, and then we'll go back and talk about it. Is that appropriate with you, Mr. Councilmember?
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Councilmember. Perfect. Madam City Clerk, can you play the roll to reconsider the item or postpone the item? Thank you.
Aren't we voting whether we're ready to vote?
We're voting on closing. Number one, we're closing thank you, Councilmember, you're absolutely right. We're voting to close the debate, and then we will take a vote to actually reconsider the motion. So thank you for that clarity. You're absolutely right. So this is just the motion to close debate. Please take the roll. Thank you.
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Thank you. Now we'll go to proceed to the item 22-755. This will actually be the motion to postpone, if I'm correct, Madam City Clerk.
Correct.
Thank you. With that, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Spears?
No.
Perkins?
No.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
No.
Mayor Rowland?
No. Okay.
Motion fails.
Thank you. And then now we'll actually have a vote to consider the item, if I'm correct.
Correct, but we'll need a motion.
Correct.
Can I have a motion for 22-755, please?
Motion to approve 755.
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. With a motion and a second, Madam City Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Thank you, Madam City Clerk, and the motion carries. That'll take us to the regular agenda. I'm going to open a public hearing. Madam City Clerk, can you read item number 1, please?
A public hearing for the application by Ali Karolzak requesting a rezoning from R6 single-family residential to R18 PUD moderate-density residential planned unit development and to approve a preliminary development plan for the properties located at 19515 and 19601 East Artie Mize Road. New information only.
This is council member comments, is that correct?
This is the new information public
Okay.
hearing, Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Rick Arroyo, the Assistant Community Development Director here at the city. This particular rezoning was considered by Planning Commission on April 26th of this year. The Planning Commission did recommend in favor of it. This is the proposed Redwood development located just south of Artie Mize and west of Jackson Drive. It's a R18 moderate residential development with single-story 4 and 6 unit buildings. I have no new information to add.
Any council member comments? Or anyone else with new information? Council members, any comments? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. And could you read the next item, please, Madam City Clerk?
Bill number 22-041, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R6 single-family residential to District R18 PUD moderate-density residential planned unit development and approving a preliminary development plan for the properties located at 19515 and 19601 East Artie Mize Road in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Thank you. Could you please call the roll?
Discussion?
I didn't see any, that's why I went with it.
Councilmember
But I hope we're
Spears?
still friends. Are we still friends?
Of course.
Absolutely. All right. Call the roll, please.
Fierce?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. The next item is we have a public hearing, and this is a full public hearing, so I'll open that. Madam City Clerk.
A public hearing for the formation of the Nolan South Community Improvement District. Full public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director. So this is a community improvement district around the area of 45th and Nolan in the Nolan South Shopping Center. It will assess a 1 cent CID on any retail sales. That concludes staff's presentation, and we're available here for questions. We do have the applicant here as well as bond counsel from Gilmore Bell.
Okay. Anyone else to testify?
Yes, Mayor, my name is Christopher Shank. I'm the owner's representative, and I don't believe I have anything more to add to the record. I did make comments at the last meeting, and I will rest upon those, but be happy to answer any questions or address any comments that the board might have at this time.
Council members, any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in favor or in opposition? Anyone else speak in favor of opposition? I will then close the public hearing.
Bill number 22-044, an ordinance approving the petition to establish the Nolan South Shopping Center Community Improvement District, establishing the district, and making findings and authorizing actions related to establishment of the district. Second and final reading.
Any discussion? See no discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. That brings us to ordinances, and Madam City Clerk, please proceed.
Bill number 22-042, an ordinance amending section 12.04.007 of the Independent City Code for including the violation of an ex parte as a violation of an order of protection. Second and final reading.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
Mr. City Manager, I had some questions about this ordinance. Would Mr. Langster be available to answer them? Or-
Yeah, I think this came from the city prosecutor, Mr. Langford, so he would probably be best if I could indulge and bring him forward.
Okay. Hi. So ex partes are issued by the state, is that correct?
That's correct,
And
yes.
the county normally would file charges on them if there's a violation? Is that?
No, the cities do.
So if there's a violation of one, so this is a new ordinance, correct?
The current ordinance covers full orders of protection. We are amending it to cover the ex partes, which cover that 15-day period between when a petitioner files for an order of protection and before the actual hearing occurs. There's a 15-day gap where something can occur, and violations that occur during that time period, well, that's why we're having this ordinance, or that's why I'm trying to get this ordinance enacted.
So currently, if there was a violation of an order of protection, you wouldn't do a probable cause statement and send it to the county, you would file the charges, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Langford, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
may I address Mr. Langford?
Sure. Proceed.
Back in our day, at the county or at the state, these sometimes and often did get filed as state cases, but that hasn't been the case for some time.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Here.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. And council members, that brings us to first readings. Madam City Clerk, please proceed.
We have one more second reading.
Oh, please forgive me.
Bill number 22-043, an ordinance creating section 12.01.019 of the Independent City Code for the prohibition of stalking. Second and final reading.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed with the roll call.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. And now it brings us to first readings. Madam City Clerk, please proceed.
Bill number 22-045, an ordinance adopting the annual operating and capital budgets of the City of Independence, Missouri for the fiscal year July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2023, estimating the revenues for said fiscal year, appropriating sums for the purposes stated in said budget, establishing operating transfers, designating fund balance allocations, establishing the authorized table of organization, and designating those who may make a requisition for encumbrances against appropriations. Bill number 22-046, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District C2 General Commercial to District C3 Service Commercial for the property at 1311 East US 24 Highway in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-047, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R6 Single Family Residential to District R30 PUD High Density Residential Plan Unit Development and approving a preliminary development plan for the property at 316 West C Avenue in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-048, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a car wash at 1337 South Nolan Road in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-049, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a used car lot at 203 North M 291 Highway in Independence, Missouri.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. And that brings us to councilmember comments. Councilmember Stewart, any comments?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Perkins, any comments?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Last weekend was a very busy weekend. Strawberry Festival went off great. Weather was pretty darn good.
And that was your responsibility, the weather for this festival?
Well, I do the best I can. More importantly, I was out sweating my butt off on 24 Highway picking up trash, so I really appreciate not being 90 degrees and
There you go.
being on.
Well, you did a great job there.
Do
Thank
you have time, John, to come over to 40 Highway this weekend?
All right, I've lost control. Please proceed, Mayor, Councilman Perkins.
Thank you for the quorum here, thank you, Mayor. So, amongst the things that we did a big cleanup on Truman Road and 24 Highway with 5 different churches. It was Revive Church, Inglewood Church, Kairos Church, Grace Church, and Maywood Church. Had about 100 volunteers, picked up about 150 bags of trash. So I want to say a big thank you to our municipal services who came out and picked up the trash that we left behind, gave us the equipment that we needed. Our PD, where's our PD guy? There he is, for helping do traffic control. It was a good event, big event, so we did make a good impact, so big appreciate that. Upcoming event is our Square Design Community Engagement Meeting. That is set for June 14th. We are set about 50% design on our Square Design and also our Truman Connected. Just not to go back in the deep scrolls here, but that is a process that we did about a year ago with approval of the City Council to spend about $600,000 to move forward on the Truman Connected, which connects Truman Library to the Truman Sports Complex. This is the first phase of that, coupled with the design of the square streetscape, which will intermingle and trying to do things efficiently in the government, which is not a word that we use a lot, but we try to use it more, is to combine our design firm, which is to one that will do all of this together. So community engagement meeting, June 14th, the Tuesday from 4:30 to 6, City Hall here, Conference Room D. It will be come as you want, come and go, get your input, see what's happening. So with that, I'll pass on there.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Fears?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Councilmember. Councilmember Steinmeier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple weeks ago, I had the privilege of riding with IPD on a homeless sweep that we did in the city. It was a rainy, muddy day, and I rode with Captain Onka, met with the team prior to. We knew it was going to be wet. We knew it was going to be muddy. There were no complaints. It was met with professionalism. Just so you know, the compassion was there for our homeless. They were given a week's notice that we were coming, and the camps that I went to were vacated except for one, and it was deep into the woods. I have to tell you that the officers involved, Captain Onka, Sergeant Scholl, Officer McLaughlin, Officer Shrout, Officer Onka, Officer Doherty, Officer Eccles, Officer Story, Officer Purdue, and Officer Wellerman, is that correct? Showed just a above board professionalism as they went out. What I saw is troubling. What the cleanup cost of this city is huge. We made several felony warrant arrests. I think there was 8, and 26, I think, municipal warrant arrests, and several tickets for panhandling. All of it in the rain, all of it in the mud. We were all soaked. We were all muddy at the end of the day. And I have to say that the team was just operated in such high levels of integrity and compassion. Mr. Walker, I commend the chief and his team. I had several constituents who saw us out in the community and texted me, called me, and let me know they appreciated those efforts, especially on a horrible weather day. So thank you to the men and women of IPD and the chief for doing what they continue to do to help move people that are down on their luck into environments where they can get the help. But those who do not want that help, they have to make some decisions. And our city is being compassionate about it. I'm very proud of them, and I look forward to riding with them again and seeing the efforts. But I'm telling you, if you have not had the opportunity to go, I would encourage you to do so. I'd encourage my colleagues to go and see those underlying areas of our city that are just that require a lot of effort. And the Parks Department too, Mr. Walker. Thank you for helping them. They came in behind. They cleaned up the bridge on 40 Highway and Sterling, and that was a mess. And the Parks crew came in and absolutely cleaned it out. Your staff needs to be commended, Mr. Walker. I do appreciate it. My constituents appreciate it in the 3rd District, and we look forward to the continued effort to clean our city and to keep those gateways, access points into our city clean and a good appearance for those who are visiting or coming to tour our historic sites and to be a part of our city for the day or for the weekend. I want them to have a pleasant experience. I think we all do, but it's going to require more effort or a continued effort to do so. So thank you, Mr. Walker, for that.
Very briefly, Mayor Rowland, thank you. I grew up in the house that's closest to Cargo Largo, and to see that finally getting built out is spectacular. And my second favorite place was my grandma used to haul me around. She sewed a lot. She hauled me around to all the places. So Cloth World in Nolan South Shopping Center, right next to Children's Palace, which was much cooler, obviously. I am just almost overwhelmed at the folks that stick around Independence and that have hung around. That shopping center has been in your family for decades, just like the Pack family has owned that business for decades. And we would be in trouble if everybody didn't love this place. Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing it, how cool you can make it, and keep your occupancy up like you've done. Just really, really special. So just wanted to say thank you so much for that. And John, I don't think it'll cost the city any money. Let's get your army over there and clean up 40 Highway for us. Let's talk. Yeah, seriously. I could use your help.
Thank you, Councilmember. You good? Good. All right, thank you. Thank you all, and I just have some brief comments. I just want to talk about our professionalism as a body and as a city council, and we owe that obligation to all of you as citizens. I have 6 Ps that I want us to start following, and on June 21st, I'm inviting all the council members and anyone who would like to come. June 21st, we're going to spend a majority of the day talking about how do we conduct ourselves professionally and politely as a city council, particularly in this body, working with staff, and interacting with citizens in the city. And so I have 3 Ps that I think are very important, and they really talk about our process, and then I have 3 other Ps too. And professionalism, politeness, and productivity. And I think that's so important for us as a city to be polite, professional, and productive. And if anyone hears of anyone on this dais that is not professional, polite, and productive when they interact with city staff, I would like to know. Also, with regards to this body and this dais is given to us as the citizens to make sure that we conduct ourselves in a professional manner. And that professional manner requires that we stay policy focused here. We have to stay policy focused here. We don't talk about politics, we don't talk about personalities. That is not what this building was built for, that's not what this room was built for, and we've got to hold ourselves to a higher standard when we are conducting business within this body. So it's a place for policy, and on June 21st, I hope that everyone is coming on June 21st, we can talk about that. And so I just want to reiterate that this is a place for policy. There's lots of tough places that we can have discussions about planning commissions and processes and things like that. Also, one thing, there's been some questions and some emails sent to me about what are we doing with the Charter Commission. We do have some process on that. I think we will, in fact, have a proposal shortly on that. Go ahead, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, when the council voted to rescind the last ordinance, it also came with direction to staff to research some other municipalities and bring forward a staff recommendation of how to address that. So we think we have something for the council to consider and plan to place that on the June 21st council agenda.
So that'll be the first read for that point.
Yes, so that you all can begin having your discussions about that.
And I would also, the reason I bring this up is to invite my colleagues to let's talk about that day. I think that's just very, very important that we talk about how do we want to proceed. Obviously, it's a first reading. We can change that. We can amend it. We can work with it quite a bit at that point. But I just wanted to set some guidelines and some parameters on how we as a body should conduct ourselves within this framework. I think this is, in my opinion, this dais is almost a sacred dais. It's democracy at its best. People have sent us here to make sure that we do our job in a professional and productive way, and I want to make sure that we follow that and are respectful of them and of all of your time that come to city council meetings. So with that being said, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.